Welcome to this edition of News Today, a series in which we discuss and briefly analyze the important news of the day. Let's have a look at today's main headlines. The Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has established an institutional mechanism to check film piracy. Recently, studies have found the negative impacts of air pollution on economic growth. The Prime Minister inaugurates the second edition of the World Food India 2023. The Institute for Economics and Peace releases the Ecological Threat Report 2023. Senegal hosts the first meeting of the World Health Organization's initiative named Global Onchocerciasis Network for Elimination. A report titled Power Shift: Why We Need to Wean Industrial Food Systems Off Fossil Fuels released. Starting with the first main news, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has established an institutional mechanism to check film piracy. Under it, the nodal officers have been appointed from the Central Board of Film Certification and the Ministry to receive complaints against piracy. This mechanism has been established under the Cinematograph Amendment Act 2023. Let's have a look at the mechanism in detail. Herein, an original copyright holder or any person authorized by them can file a complaint. For complaints by the non-authorized persons, the officer can hold hearings on a case-to-case basis to decide its genuineness. After directions from the officer, the intermediaries have to remove the internet links hosting the pirated content within a period of 48 hours. Having looked at the mechanism, let's explore the Cinematograph Amendment Act 2023. To curb piracy, the Cinematograph Amendment Act 2023 was passed, which amended the Cinematograph Act of 1952. It supports the existing laws like the Copyright Act of 1957 and the Information Technology Act of 2000. The Act prohibits unauthorized recording and exhibition of films, and the offences herein are punishable with imprisonment and a fine. Before we conclude, let's understand the significance or the need of such mechanism. With the proliferation of the internet, the piracy of films and other related content has increased. It results in losses of up to Rs 20,000 crore every year to the film industry.
Moving on, recent studies have found the negative impact of air pollution on economic growth. Conventionally, air pollution has been seen as a byproduct of economic growth. However, in recent times, it is impacting economic growth. Both GDP growth and per capita income levels are impacted by it. Now let's find out what are the key impacts of air pollution on various sectors according to the study. 4.5% of India's GDP could be at risk by 2030 due to lost labor hours from climate change issues including extreme heat and humidity. In agriculture sector, high levels of concentration of pollutants, particularly of ozone, reduce crop yields and thus affect agricultural productivity. In consumption-led services, air pollution lowers consumer footfall, impacting manufacturing and service sectors. Air pollution will lead to a surge in health expenses and welfare allocations and put more burdens on the governments. Low per capita GDP states of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh will become more vulnerable. So the question is, what can be done to tackle this issue? We can increase the use of technologies like anti-smog guns, which are devices that eject fine nebulized water droplets to absorb dust and pollutant particles. Green building techniques can be promoted for energy efficiency. Further, we also need to replace conventional fuels with cleaner alternatives like biofuels and explore hydrogen-based energy systems. Now, India has also been taking several initiatives to curb air pollution, like the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981, National Clean Air Program of 2019, National Ambient Air Quality Standards, and System of Air Quality and Weather Forecasting and Research.
In another news, the Prime Minister inaugurates the second edition of the World Food India 2023. The Ministry of Food Processing Industries has organized the World Food India 2023 to celebrate the year 2023 as the International Year of Millets and showcase India as the food basket of the world. The first edition of this World Food India was launched in 2017. Herein, the exponential food processing, positioning India as a global hub is one of the focus pillars of the World Food India 2023. Having said this, let's have a look at India's food processing industry. India's food processing industry has emerged as a sunrise sector and attracted FDI investments of about rupees 50,000 crore in the past 9 years. Also, the processed food segment contribution to the agri exports has grown to 23%, making an overall increase of 150% of the exported processed foods. Additionally, the processing capacity has increased to more than 200 lakh metric tons. This growth in the food processing industry can be attributed to three main pillars. Firstly, small farmers. They have effectively used the farmer-producer organizations to increase their participation and profits. Around 7,000 farmer-producer organizations have already been made. Secondly, small industries. About 2 lakh micro-enterprises are being organized to increase the small-scale industries' participation. Plus, the One District, One Product scheme is giving a new identity to small farmers and small industries. Thirdly, women. More than 9 crore women are associated with self-help groups. Also, the dispersed seed capital assistance to over 1 lakh SHGs have been provided. Before we conclude this news, let's have a look at some other government initiatives in this regard. These include the PM's Kisan Sampada Yojana with Mega Food Park scheme as its component and the PLI scheme for the food processing industry.
In our next news, the Institute for Economics and Peace released the Ecological Threat Report 2023. Headquartered in Sydney, the Institute for Economics and Peace is an independent non-profit think tank. Coming to the report, it focuses on 4 categories of threats that are directly related to drivers of conflict: food insecurity, natural disaster, demographic pressure, and water risk. So what were the key findings of the report regarding these drivers? 42 countries are facing severe food insecurity, and more than 65% of population were not able to afford food in the past year. There is a high chance that devastating natural disasters will impact over 5% of the population. More than 70% increase was predicted in the population by 2050, increasing strain on public resources and societal resilience. Further, the report stated that more than 20% of the population had no access to clean drinking water. The report also highlighted relationship between ecological threats and conflict. Shifts in ecological threat report scores are associated with increased risk of conflict. For example, the shift in indicator score of 25% for food insecurity increases the risk of conflict by around 36%. Also, large-scale natural hazards restrict access to resources and markets, resulting in food insecurity and water risk, which further fuels the conflicts. Ecological threats also influence conflict in regions with lower levels of peacefulness, high climatic variability, high poverty, and weak governance such as Sahel. Now let's take a quick look at the recommendations presented in the report to deal with ecological threats. There is a need to build resilience with functioning institutions and infrastructure, and local communities need to be empowered for higher level of sustainability. Further, innovative programs like sand dams, engineered wetlands can help build water resilience. Also, farmer-managed natural regeneration can assist in reclaiming degraded land.
Moving on, Senegal hosts the first meeting of World Health Organization's initiative named Global Onchocerciasis Network for Elimination. The Global Onchocerciasis Network for Elimination, or GON, was launched in January 2023. It empowers the countries to accelerate progress towards onchocerciasis targets set in the 2030 Neglected Tropical Disease Roadmap of the WHO. Onchocerciasis, commonly known as river blindness, is caused by a parasitic worm named Onchocerca volvulus that spreads by the bites of infected black flies that breed in rapidly flowing rivers. It is the second leading infectious cause of blindness after trachoma. Its symptoms include intense itching, rashes, skin discoloration, visual impairment, and permanent blindness. Africa is home to 99% of people at risk of onchocerciasis, and the remaining 1% live on the borders between Brazil and Venezuela. However, countries namely Colombia, Ecuador, Guatemala, and Mexico have been verified by the World Health Organization for eliminating transmission of the disease. Before we conclude, let's have a look at what exactly are the neglected tropical diseases. Neglected tropical diseases or NTDs are a diverse group of 20 conditions that are mainly prevalent in tropical areas where they affect more than 1 billion people who live in the impoverished communities. They can be caused by a variety of pathogens, including viruses, bacteria, parasites, and toxins. Examples of certain entities include dengue and chikungunya, rabies, leprosy, and lymphatic filariasis. Herein, India has successfully eliminated certain entities like guinea worm, trachoma, and yaws. The London and the Kigali Declaration on NTDs are some of the initiatives at the global level to tackle the NTDs.
Moving on to the next news, a report titled Power Shift: Why We Need to Wean Industrial Food Systems of Fossil Fuels was released. In the report, Global Alliance for the Future of Food highlights that food systems currently account for at least 15% of global fossil fuels use annually, which is equivalent to 4.6 gigatons of carbon dioxide. In the overall food system, the main contributors are input production, land use and agricultural production, processing and packaging, and retail consumption and waste. Now let's take a look at the key findings of the report. It was observed that the energy intensity of food processing, refrigeration, warehousing, and storage is increasing as supply chains are getting longer, requiring increased use of packaging. Here, processing and packaging constitute the highest energy consumption, followed by retail consumption and waste. Fertilizer production has been reported to have high fossil fuel usage, and this usage is expected to further increase significantly through 2050. Also, the report stated that large multinational firms are dominating the agri-food and energy sectors. Now the question is, what can be done to reduce fossil fuel use in the food system? The report has made various recommendations in this regard. We can start by adopting regenerative and agroecological approaches. Tax credits, subsidies, and loans can be promoted to increase the production of biofuel. The report also recommends the use of renewable-based technologies for cooling, heating, and drying agriculture products. Additionally, we need to develop sustainable food environments that support plant-rich diets. Also, there is a need to promote collaboration between different actors in food and energy systems as they are intertwined. This will help in reducing emissions and promoting energy and food security. Let's have a look at today's place in news, which is Galapagos Islands. It is in news as 2 new coral reefs and sea mounts were discovered here. The group of islands is situated in the eastern Pacific Ocean, approximately 1,000 kilometers from Ecuadorian coast. It is located at the confluence of 3 ocean currents, the Humboldt Current, Panama Flow, and Cromwell Current. It consists of 13 major and 6 smaller islands, and the equator passes through the island. Now let's take a closer look at the main geographical features of the islands. It is formed of lava piles and is dotted with shield volcanoes, many of which are periodically active. The largest island in the group is Isabella, and the highest point is the peak of Wolf volcano, which is located on Isabella Island. The Galapagos was a wildlife sanctuary which later became the Galapagos National Park. It is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
As we conclude today's main news, let's go through some quick updates. The Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs of the Ministry of Finance announced the amnesty scheme. According to it, taxpayers will now have additional time till January 2024 to file appeals against demand orders. The government has auctioned first 50-year bond or dated G-Secs, which saw strong demand from investors. Dated G-Secs are securities which carry a fixed or floating coupon, which is paid on the face value on half-yearly basis. The National Dam Safety Authority team has criticized the Kaleshwaram project's planning and design for Medigada barrage's failure. Over 50 grass species were identified during a survey on grasses identification and grassland management at the Gandla Brahmeshwaram Wildlife Sanctuary. It is a protected area situated between Kurnool and Prakasam districts in Andhra Pradesh. Researchers have found that exposure to formaldehyde caused the loss of methylation of histones, which are proteins that package DNA and control the function of thousands of genes. This could further contribute to well-documented carcinogenic properties of formaldehyde. Indian scientists have made a micro-scale heat engine or the Stirling engine that has shown 95% efficiency. Achieving high efficiency with high power has been considered almost impossible as conversion of heat to energy causes heat loss in the process. The Copernicus Centennial-2 mission provided optical images of Kawah Ilan crater lake's unique natural phenomena. The lake is located in East Java of Indonesia and has a pH of less than 0.3. NASA's Lucy mission has discovered that the asteroid Dinkinesh is actually a binary system of two asteroids. Launched in 2021, Lucy is the first space mission to explore Jupiter's Trojan asteroids. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to the test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answer to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.